Through several movies, animated series, and toys, there have been various incarnations of the Transformers, and in almost all of them we see the battle between the Autobots and Decepticons. Now with this new animated film, Transformers 1, we get a story looking at Optimus Prime and Megatron before they became the transforming robots who often went head-to-head against each other. Directing this film is Josh Cooley, who previously spent several years at Pixar as a story artist and directed Toy Story 4. So what did I think of Transformers 1? I found this to be a solid, action-filled romp that was able to develop the characters in an interesting way. I admit it did take me a little while to get into the stories. It takes some accustoming to understand the world and how it functions. This is also a different Optimus Prime and Megatron than we might be familiar with in the live-action films, but that's understandable, as Transformers 1 is set billions of years before they even landed on Earth. However, something that becomes clear almost immediately is how much Cooley takes advantage of the setting. You get the sense of him being excited to bring Cyberton, the home planet of the Transformers, to animated life. There's so many layers to this planet and all kinds of places that the characters visit. The camera is also constantly swooping around, and yet impressively, despite there being sometimes several Transformers on screen at the same time, it never becomes incoherent. It's easy to know where everyone is at a given moment during the action sequences. A lot of credit should also go to the animators at Industrial Light and Magic. They did a fantastic job with the setting, the character animation, and giving the film a vibrant and colorful appearance. The action sequences are spectacularly handled, including an early one involving a race. What most impressed me about Transformers 1, though, is how much made me invested in the characters and their situation. The idea of them living in a tiered class system is an interesting one that the film does a good job of exploring, particularly the effect this has on Optimus, Megatron, and Bumblebee, and their aspirations. Through this concept, the film is willing to go to some dark places, with Cooley finding the right tone of how to tackle them in this family-friendly film. The whole transforming aspect of these characters is also implemented in an interesting way and does play a large role in the narrative and their development. Each of the main characters is given an identifiable personality and manages to stand out in their own way. Optimus Prime is obviously the main heroic figure, but he does evolve as he learns more about what's at stake in Cybertron, and we see the seeds being planted of the Autobot leader he would later become. Elita could easily have been written as just the Smurfette of the group, but the film is able to show her serious side in her attempting to prove her abilities on Cybertron. Bumblebee is primarily the comic relief, and this is a character that could have easily grated on the nerves, especially since he's written to be annoying to the other Transformers. Thankfully, he never irritates, and provides several hilarious moments, which I also credit to Keegan-Michael Key's voice work. Key seems to get cast in a lot of movies as that wacky side character spitting out jokes, including in animated films. I think his role as Bumblebee might be the best use of him in an animated film, using his talent of playing excitable and fast-talking characters to great effect. Meanwhile, some of the most interesting development belongs to Megatron. Anyone going in with some knowledge of Transformers will know the path he'll eventually take in the future. His change here is well handled by the filmmakers, who explore how someone becomes angry and outraged at the world, and the route they might choose to take as an emotional response to this. The most fitting comparison one can make is probably to Charles Xavier and Eric Lehnsherr from the X-Men, with Optimus and Megatron having a similar dynamic and approach to the things they find out. While these four do get the most development, the other Transformers also become memorable personalities throughout the film. I will confess, when it comes to Transformers, this is not a property I have any sort of attachment towards, nostalgic or otherwise. I had a few of the toys, but never watched the animated series, and of the movies before this, Bumblebee was the only one I got into. So I did not come into Transformers 1 as someone with a deep admiration for these robots who can turn into vehicles. That I was able to get invested in these robots, their politics, and the battle to save their planet shows that Josh Cooley and the rest of the filmmaking team succeeded in making something that appeals beyond the core fanbase. It did this by having the proper stakes and having a decent mixture of dramatic moments with the occasional comedic lines, while also having a clear respect for the Transformers and the joy they brought to many over the last 40 years. And I came away curious where they'll take this version of them next.